All right, here, Dr. Shankopotamus again. We're going to be working on the 2000 BMW 328, still kicking. I have developed a exhaust leak, and you could tell just by the engine sound. I could run it for you, and you could tell. Gosh, it's hard to see it down there. And then I started throwing some codes with the O2 sensors being off. Put it up on the lift. Looked around, and just down in there on the side, and maybe we'll see it once we start taking everything apart. You can see where the soot has been blown against the side, and there's a small hole, a couple of small holes actually, there in the header. Now the bad thing, or the good thing on about these BMWs is the header also contains the catalytic converter, so it's not really cheap to do this job if you do it with the right equipment, put the right stuff back into there, especially if you use BMW equipment back into there. I'll show you what we're doing. As always, according to the Bentley, there you go. According to Bentley, it's easy. You know, we're gonna lift the engine up just a little bit, right? We're gonna take all the O2 sensors off, and then you just kind of unbolt everything and bolt stuff back on. I'm gonna be real surprised if that's how it works, but we'll walk through this together, see if we can make this work. Shouldn't be too bad. Some supplies you're going to need. Let me show you here. ECS. That's where I get quite a bit of my stuff. ECS tuning. So I got the new shields, okay, with the gasket on the shield right there from ECS tuning, along with a whole new set of the nuts. BMW recommends that when you do this job, you replace the nuts as well as the bolts for pulling to the exhaust system. We'll be using those a little bit later. Okay. That's for my daughter's 328. That's some other stuff. Anyway, but the price, they usually have really good prices, but in this case, their price for the MagnaFlow headers, which we got right here, was not quite as good. So I got these from hotexhaust.com. You're going to have two of those. You can see right there is where your O2 sensor port's going to go, and then your post-catalytic sensor on that side. I'm pretty sure my O2 sensors are fine. They're just getting bad readings on this one side because of the leak that I've got down there. And these are pretty well made. This MagnaFlow headers, you can see, nice. There we go, getting there closer. Pretty nice welds. A little bit there and there, but that's not too bad. Overlap. I kind of checked all the welds, just eyeballed them to see. There's one right there that's a little, you know, not quite coming together perfectly, but it looks like it still seals it very well, and that's what you want. You want all your connections sealed, and it looks like pretty good workmanship. The size is the standard size here. Whoops, sorry, going the wrong way. There we go. So anyway, so we got that one, and then in here we got the other one. When working on this car, this particular model, this is a BMW 328 2000. It's 50175, and I think it's 50176. There it is. Those are two converters you're going to need. I would say you're in there, I would do both of them. It was just one. This one's leaking in my case, but I went ahead and ordered both of them, put them in there, it'll be running like a dream. And of course, once it's hooked back up, I'll check, make sure it's not throwing any more codes, and make sure it didn't ruin the oxygen sensors, because it took a while to get these in. My kids are still driving it. We've been running it with the engine light on. I know what the engine light is, but we still needed to use the cars. Hopefully we didn't ruin oxygen sensors. My recommendation would be, if this happens, put the car up, you can get it fixed, or you might ruin your oxygen sensors, but we'll see. All right, let's get started. All right, sorry for being a little wobbly here. I'm still trying to find my tripod or break down and buy a new one. Had a nice tripod. I don't know what room it got put in or closet it got put in, but that's neither here nor there. So the manual says go ahead and unhook right up in here. Can you see this? Let me get the light on. There we go. Your O2 sensor connections here. Okay, and here. The other two are underneath this cover in here. They said to go ahead and unplug them so you don't damage them, and take them out first. So we will be, you have to take off your filter, which is your internal cabin filter right here. Take off this front tray. It's pretty easy to do, okay? And you have to do this, a lot of times on these particular models, you have to do this to get to a lot of things on the engine. And I'll show you, pretty straightforward, all right? Get this third one off over here. Again, I'm sorry for shaking around a little bit, but I'm having to hold the camera more than I usually do on my videos. All right, there's your filter. Okay, filter pops out easily. Don't forget to replace that thing every now and then so it keeps your cabin filter, your cabin air clean. You got 4 Torx screws back here. Okay, get your Torx out, go to town, take those off. This will lift right out. I'm gonna do all this at one time and show you the results. There's covers here and then another cover back there with a 10mm nut on it. Pop that 10mm nut and you'll have access to the oxygen sensor connectors right here. Okay, let me go get that apart for you. All right, so we got the panel off here, and back there to the back we've got the cover and the holder for the filter, cabin filter off. Little trick so you don't lose these little covers. Just put your bolt. The bolt's on this side. Actually, the nut is on this one. The bolt's on this one. I think I misspoke earlier. So just put your nut right inside of there. Put the cap on top of it, and you won't lose either one of them while you're working on your car. Okay. So the O2 sensor connectors you're after are here and here. These are your rear sensors, and then these two down in here. As I showed you before, here's one of them. See if we can get a shot of this. There you go, right in there. It's your O2 sensor connector. There's another one just up from that, right here. So they recommended taking those apart. So that's what we're going to do. Unhook those so we don't damage them, and then take them out. There's your O2 sensor back there. All right, there's going to be another one just up to the front, buried right down in there that you'll get to. And then once you got those off, you can lift the engine and drop out the headers. Like I said, the manual says it's easy, but we'll see. All right, so as you can see, there's the connector for the O2 sensor, and then just back behind that a little bit, that's where your O2 sensor comes out. Okay, and you got a couple of options. You can use a little crow's foot to get around it like that if you need to. I find this one works a little bit better if you got enough room to let the wire sort of twist a little bit. So for another reason, for disconnecting your oxygen sensor, it's very difficult to twist, and you might break the wires. Twist those wires without disconnecting right back there. So this little bad boy just fits right over the oxygen sensor, which is here. I don't know, we'll put this back in. This one's he's pretty done in, but he may still be working just fine. But you can see how this will fit down on it like that, where the wire comes through. And then your connector back here, always remember to put dielectric grease back on them when you put them back together. So I'm going to go ahead and pop off the other one here in the front. We'll get these two off, and they're the lower ones. We'll take those off from underneath the car, and we'll go from there. All right. So I got the other oxygen sensors disconnected here. See here, into the back. Unhooked it here. There's a little zip tie. There's another zip tie far on the back. Let me show you. That when I replaced the oxygen sensors, I had to disconnect it. See if we can see it for you guys. Right there. Okay. There's a lot of wire, a lot of cord between here and bottom. So I'm going to see if I don't put too much stress on the wires to not disconnect that one. A little bit of pain in the fanny to get. Oops, sorry guys. Or girls. Whatever's up. A little bit of pain in the butt to get back there and actually get that thing undone and back on, but I can if I have to. So now we've got our engine lift on. The one that I use for just about everything, this OTC. It's very sturdy. It's got 2 different lift points if you need them. One thing that it doesn't have is the support to the back. Some of them have a triangle for the support. I haven't needed that yet. It does swivel here, but if you tighten these down on the side real well, it stops the swivel. Okay, but I have used it to lift this engine and that engine. Okay, and seems to work really well. So we've got it hooked up. I just went straight in without the chain because it's just easier to do that, and make sure you don't hit anything else. Just get a hold of the engine lift point right there, and I brought it up. It said 5mm. You know, just get the weight off of it because you're going to remove your engine mount down there. Okay. So now we'll get the lift over here. I've already got it up on the lift points where I know that it's on there. Now I'm going to lift it up the rest of the way so we get up underneath it and get the O2 sensors out, the post-catalytic converter O2 sensors out. That's the pre one. Then we'll drop the headers off. Like I keep saying, the manual says just drop them out, put new ones back in, but we shall see. Okay, before you go underneath to get my light going, to get your support for the engine mount out, there's another bolt you need to get a hold of. If I can get the shadows away from it. There you go. The bolt on the top, that has to come off first, then raise the car up and take it off. The other bolt's underneath. And I'm going to go ahead and take the plate off here. They didn't really say that you had to. What you're after is this engine mount right here, because you got to get a hold of your catalytic converter, your exhaust. You're going to disconnect back here. Let me zoom out a little bit. Disconnect back here. Here's your post-catalytic converter O2 sensors right there. I'm going to try taking this off first and then undo that converter just to get to it. This one, pretty hard to get to that little bad boy. You have to go up and over the top. I remember putting him in. But anyway, so we'll undo these bolts. I'm going to spray a little loosening oil on them so you can get them off easier. But then, like I said, this mount has to come off. I've replaced that mount in the past. That's why it looks so nice. And then there's your converters. So I'm going to go after this. Then they said disconnect here. Of course, they said O2 sensors first. I'm going to try this first. Then mount comes off. And then we'll take some pictures. They also said if you have trouble getting them off, you might have to take off the subframe right here. But we'll see. Okay, another thing I had noticed, when you go to take your engine mount off, this is the first thing. There you go. That's the first bolt you want to get to. That's a 16. Okay, a little wobble, and you can get through there and get it off. These guys up here are 13s, and there's 4 of them against the engine, right? You can see the other one right, almost right there, up here. And then up top, right over there. There is a grounding strap. I mean, obviously you'll see it when you get in here. But that looks like it's going to be a 13, too. But just be sure you undo that grounding strap too. I'm going to undo the grounding strap from the frame and leave it attached here, and then drop the engine mount off. Alrighty. Okay, kids. And it's hard to tell, but it's actually been 7 days out there in YouTube land. You can't quite tell that time passes like that. It's just been a few seconds since our last clip, but here's your problem. You got these studs, there you go, right here, all right, that hold your headers on, okay? And I elected to try to save a few bucks. This is why I'm telling you this. And not buy those little studs, because they can be up to $3 each, and you need 16 of them, right? So 50 bucks with shipping. What I learned, I'm going to tell you what I learned, is that as you take these out, the vast majority of these will come out like this, okay? Now, yeah, you could reuse them, but not really the best idea. But it might not do you harm to reuse them. If you want to reuse them like that, then more power to you. You're going to have a heck of a time getting the manifold, the exhaust header up there on there properly, and then screwing these in. You really need the studs to be in the block, right? And then lay your exhaust onto there. Makes it much easier to deal with it. Here's what I ended up with. I'll show you these guys too. So after messing with them for a while, let me get this in focus. Oops, whoa, hey, whoa, 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 hey, whoa. There we go. And you can see, hopefully, get a little focus, get a little focus. There we go, perfect. See the straight lines there on the threads? That's where I had to clamp it down. Sorry for moving the camera around there, guys and girls, with some vice grips. And I was able to get the nuts off of those. And you know, maybe with clamping them down right there in the middle, that section that's actually on the base of your exhaust manifold, it might not, or your header, I'm sorry, might not, you know, give you any trouble, but I decided, what the heck, I'm going to go ahead and do this right. I'm going to replace them because they are kind of corroded. they still kind of work. Let's come back underneath here. So now that they have finally come in, I'm going to go through and remove, there's one and then I think another one up here. Yeah, and two that actually stayed with the car. Spray a little penetrating oil on them. Let me show you what I'm using here. I know a lot of people use the, what is it, the busters kind of stuff. This stuff I found seems to work exceptionally well. Anyway, Kano Aerocroil, yeah, whatever that stuff is. There you go, that stuff. Orange can, works amazingly well. One of the auto guys said, hey man, you should grab some of this instead of the wrench buster and all that kind of stuff, liquid wrench stuff, and it does work really, really well. So I have my O2 sensors out here. Of course, I'm going to label rear. This one's obviously the front, so I don't forget where they are. I'm going to put new gaskets onto here. I've got new screws to go onto here. This is your spacer. We'll leave that on. And then we'll show you. You just put them in. Oh, the important thing, where is it? This guy that was the back here, back has to go on first. Front has to come off first, and then they'll go in reverse order when you put them back on. Another thing to be aware of when you're putting them back together, let me get this out of here. You'll see you've got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 holes for your studs on here, right? Well, you have 16 hole studs, I believe it is, or maybe it's 12 hole studs. You have more, look up on the side, hole studs at each outlet than you have on your header over there. So be sure you're putting your studs back into the proper holes for your header. You don't have to take them in and out too many times. You might damage the threads on them. I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize compound onto these bad boys when I put them into there. For better or for worse, that may help in the future. If you got to take them out, let me show you. Sorry for walking around, but it's just the way it is. There we go. Just a little copper anti-seize on there. Makes them a little easier to screw them into there, and then they'll still cinch down when you tighten them up, and makes them easier to get them out if you ever have to again. So okay. So next step, we're going to go ahead and get to work, and I'll give you a finished picture once I've got the headers on there. One more thing I forgot to point out here, ladies and gentlemen, is the manual says just remove the headers. That ain't exactly what happens. You're really, I don't think you can do this job without a right angle air impact wrench here. You just can't get in there. Now some of them I got off and loosened up with regular wrenches over here and using my ratchets and that sort of stuff. But you really can't get them off without getting in there with this. So I wouldn't tackle this unless you've got access to one of these. I'm running this thing off a small air compressor. For this job, it's plenty right over there. You really do want yourself a big regular air compressor though, but I'm running a small one today and it worked fine. But anyway, just another little tidbit of information that's very useful before you start digging into this job. Okay. All right, another little tip is clean these off as best you can. There's still a little bit of soot that I just can't seem to get off, just on that end. See there around the edge just a little bit? It's kind of inside where the seal is. Oops, sorry. Pain in the fan to get these things. But anyway, online they recommend, scraping and then a Scotch pad and then acetone. I wouldn't scrape too much on these bad boys with a razor blade or anything because they are aluminum heads that are on there and they're kind of soft. You can dig into that aluminum and be really, really careful. You can take the larger stuff off, but be real careful. Just go after with a Scotch-Brite kind of pad, and then some acetone. You should be able to get it clean enough. But just be sure you clean them as much as possible so the new seals will take and seal them. All right, here I got a easier way. That's from the pool. Okay, I need to drink that. Easier way to get these studs in. You can hand, screw them in, but they get a little awkward. They cinch, and it's hard to get them to go in. You don't want to get a hold of them with wire pliers and strip them or cause any kind of damage to the threads. So I got an idea you guys can try. You take your old nuts, okay, you get one on there this way, all right. Then we're going to take another one, put it on there back to back like this. Okay, and then once you get this one down, and you bring them together, and then you just cinch them together. You know what I'm saying? You go screw this one counterclockwise, screw this one clockwise, and they cinch down, and they stay tight. Stay tight enough for you to easily screw the nut in, and then back these bolts back off of it. Okay? So let me show you how we do that. It's worked for a couple of them. Seems to be working fine. That's when we put the rest of them in. It makes it a lot easier to get it in. A few minutes extra work, but allows you to cinch those studs right on down. All right. And there's the final product once you have them together. Take this whole unit, screw your stud in, then go clockwise with the near one, counterclockwise with the far one. They'll come undone, and take them off. All right, so all the studs are in all across here. We're about to put the gaskets in, and then we will hook on the exhaust manifolds here, or headers here. You put on the back one first, and hooking up your O2 sensors, and then putting on the forward ones. All right, so we got the pipes back on here, or the headers with your converter. Right here, this is the front three. This is the back three coming in. This is where we're tied into the exhaust pipes. We got our O2 sensors back on. And if you follow up through there, you can see where we've got it tied into the engine up there. Let's see if we can get a little zoomage. Oh yeah, there you go, those guys. A few of them are pretty onerous to get onto there and to get them tightened down. Working on putting the engine mount back on right now. Engine mount here onto the engine, obviously, and then mounting onto the frame. I took my subframe off. I'll put that back on. Now what you want to do is put your engine mount to the engine first, tighten that down, then let your load back down and tighten here and on top. You really should, I didn't this time because I just don't have them, but you really should replace the nut that's up underneath here, that guy right there. You really should replace that every time. That's the only truth, I'm not doing it this time, but if you can get one, you should replace it. So a couple things that might help out. A little wrench like this is super duper handy, okay, with getting to some of those nuts, okay, because you just can't get a hold of them with anything else sometimes. And then of course your handy dandy trusty right angle impact wrench has got it all fixed up for us. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the engine mount back on, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're back up top now, and we have there. Let's see if we can get a. Oh, where'd he go? There he is. Oh, over a little bit. So just tighten down the bolt for the engine mount on the top. The bottom cover's on. Everything's in place. Now we're going to come back and reconnect our. Sorry about that. Reconnect our O2 sensors. You know, up here. It's tough to see. There it is. You know, from the top where your O2 sensor is going. Wait a minute. Where the heck did it go? Here we go. So right down through. There you go. There's your pre-catalytic converter O2 sensor input for the rear. And the front is the same thing, just kind of tucked up underneath here. So I'm going to get the O2 sensors back in, and we'll put the cover for the vent back on, and then the engine cover back on. We're going to go over here. If y'all don't know how, maybe I should do a video on that too. We're going to reset the codes because it's been throwing O2 sensor codes because of the leak in there, the catalytic converter leak. And I'll reset the codes. We'll start it up and see how it does. All right, so I want to show you one little thing with the O2 sensors on this particular model. The rear sensor, let's see here. Okay, back in position there. It's a little lower position than the factory headers where the muffler there, the converter are, but it still comes up and hooks in like normal and then fits into this clip on the side of the engine. For these particular aftermarket exhaust or headers here, the connection, because of how far down, let me show you, there we go, because the O2 sensor is a little further down there, you can't quite, you don't have quite enough wire to go into your clip right here. A little annoying. I like things to be the way they came from the factory, but hey. So something I think about when I change O2 sensors, I just might look for one with a longer wire, pop it into here. Don't quote me, I think the O2 sensors are pretty much all the same. The numbers of the different wire lengths, because you've got to be able to come all the way up to the top here for your post-cat sensors, you know, your pre-cat sensors, shorter wires. So you may be able to use one of your post-cat sensors with a longer wire, kind of wrap it up and then get it up into here. But anyway, still should work. The wires are protected, should be okay. Okay, so we'll put the engine cover back on and start her up. All right, so here we are. We are all back together. We're gonna have Son of Shankopotamus crank it, and hopefully it starts right up. Okay. I cleared the codes back here. No. Okay. We'll see how it's doing there. I must admit those headers have a little more noise to them than the factory headers. I don't think that's a leak. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time. But that's what we'll do. We'll check it, we'll let it run, let it heat up. Make sure it's not throwing any codes for us. And we'll go from there. Dr. Shankopotamus, thanks for watching.